Tesla's in the lab cooking. Big time. Like, this is big time innovation. This is going to be, I was there at the time when smartphones were invented. I was there scaling it. I was there the first time we turned on turn-by-turn navigation on a smartphone, where you didn't have to go to MapQuest to figure out, where you're going in your directions. You can actually, do it I was there when the first app store on Android started. These are magical moments, and that changed the course of human history. This is going to be another one of those moments with autonomy. By the way, I wrote an article on February 1st about tariffs and how it would be a disaster for legacy auto. Literally lights out in a couple of weeks. I still believe that. They've been able to bring over some inventory, and that's fine. You may have some delayed impact, but it's still, if the component side goes in, it is literally lights out for them. The U.S. is their last remaining market, and now you're telling them that you're going to make finished goods and components 25% more expensive. Their hardware margins can't deal with it. I wrote that article on February 1st. I also said Tesla's in far and away in a much better position, and I think I looked at that article. I just reposted. I'm like, there's nothing I have to change on this, honestly, because it's true. But I am writing a piece now about this convergence for Tesla, because I really think this is a special time for the company, because you have peak noise happening at the same time that you have peak signal emerging. And it's fascinating. You have all this noise with the protests. You have all this noise with sales. You've got magazine publications like Vogue and Rolling Stone writing about January sales for cars. Like, they never do that before. You have all peak noise at the same time. The company just turned over production of their highest selling product in the world. They made it better. They have lower cost vehicles coming. We all know the script. We know unsupervised coming, reiterated for June. We know humanoids coming. Like, this is a point of high noise and high signal at the same time. It's fascinating, but it's also a bit of you can see sort of a check. It's hard to say, but it's sort of a checkmate move approaching, because again, if in this tariff situation, Tesla stands out, they have relative better pricing, they still have incentives from the EV tax credit. Some of this stuff could go away, but it's still there today. And then if the others can't produce, they have to buy more ZEV credits. So if you were worried about the hardware business for Tesla, it just got a gigantic boost from a new vehicle, from a tariff regimen that they're insulated from because of their supply chain decisions. And then you've got these companies now that still have to buy these ZEV credits that can't produce the vehicles that were allowing them to not buy the ZEV credits.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time. And if you're worried about the hardware business, even though the long-term bulls are like, we're buying, we're into this thing for autonomy, we're into this thing for humanoids. Well, this business that everybody was worried about just got, I think, a bit of a boost.
Yeah, and that's such a fascinating observation. And what's interesting about that too is a lot of people that maybe follow this story not super closely. The only rebuttal I can think of that they would come up with is like, well, all the political noise is going to be it's going to hurt Tesla sales.
Yeah,
it's going to hurt Tesla sales. All these pissed off Democrats are going to stop buying Tesla, completely ignoring the opposite side of the story and completely ignoring the middle 50 to 80 that just simply doesn't care. They just want best bang for your buck, right? So I think that's very well summarized. How do you read? So Elon in the last couple of days is once again, and the Tesla team, even just today, Elon just reiterating June unsupervised. I mean, I feel like it feels like a done deal. It feels like Tesla will launch a self-driving platform in America starting in 2 months, around about 2 months, and it's going to do something, right? So how do you see that picture? Do you think this is something that the broader markets are going to? Do you think this is again, I don't want this to be investment advice, but given all the noise, do you feel like this is already baked into the price? Do you feel like this is the fundamental understanding behind what Tesla has achieved is still not well captured? And let me just mention something here quick. One of the CNBC hosts just today, this morning, what was his name? I forget. Oh my God.
David Carbutt, yeah.
Thank you. Just like, if you haven't tried FSD, you should try it 100 miles outside of New York, not touching the wheel. And I'm like, how do you guys not know this? You know, like, are we really that deep in a bubble that light bulb moment hasn't gone off for people yet? And I don't even think they fully have grasped what that means, truly. You know,
and we even got the inverse Kramer of like, oh yeah, well there's Waymo and they can already do that, so it doesn't mean anything too. So
the fundamental misunderstanding that it doesn't matter if it's not about level 4, it's about level 4 at scale. Level 4 with millions of units where each costs less than 30,000 to produce. Exactly.
You can buy. That's available for sale.
Yes.
Yeah. No. The answer is no. David Faber is an independent journalist. He's a member of CNBC for many decades. He's one of the best, but he's also quite independent. So he doesn't necessarily have to abide by, if you believe the management and the producers aren't necessarily pro Tesla, and even some of the anchors, he doesn't necessarily. He's more independent. And you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to see more and more of this awakening. So we have, for us in the Tesla community, like we've seen this. We've seen 13.2 since Thanksgiving. Essentially, that's how long this series has been out there.
Like a year ago, you know.
Oh yeah, but even 13.2 was started to push out at Thanksgiving, and you can just see the time it takes. It's almost like that's the center. That was the earthquake, and then you're going to have these. These tremors that occur, and this is now you hear the media. They're going to start seeing this and picking up on it, and that's what I'm saying. It's high noise and high signal. All the media gravitates to right now is somebody banging a pot and pan, going out to a protest and wearing weird clothes and not even knowing what they're protesting about, and that's where all the cameras and clicks are occurring. Meanwhile, Tesla's in the lab cooking. Big time. Like, this is big time innovation. This is going to be, I was there at the time when smartphones were invented. I was there scaling it. I was there the first time we turned on turn-by-turn navigation on a smartphone, where you didn't have to go to MapQuest to figure out, where you're going in your directions. You can actually, do it I was there when the first app store on Android started. These are magical moments, and that changed the course of human history. This is going to be another one of those moments with autonomy. It's just not well understood yet. And the point of Tesla not only having it, but it's there, it's dormant in 7 million vehicles. Okay. The more recent ones are obviously going to be hardware 4, but it's not well understood. It's there, it's already at scale, and it's at a price point that people can buy versus these, confined robotaxis. You can't buy these robotaxis that are out there for yourself and have one for yourself and have it drive you. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah. By the way, thank you for that incredible introduction you just made for us. It's but so does it feel the same? Does it feel the same as those times that you experienced this unsupervised FSD train? Like, do you because I know, one of the things I think people don't understand about business building or being an executive or being very close to business building is that as much people think there is a science behind understanding what's going on, a lot of it is an art and a lot of it is vibe. Like, like, once you're close to the story, and I don't know if you can agree with this, it seems like you are. It's like a lot of it is like an art and a vibe that you just feel. All these things are coming together. Your subconscious has figured it out. You just don't know how to properly put it in a box and package it and let the world know what's going on. Is it the same sort of vibe as you were feeling?
I have 2 examples of this. One was at the kind of the start of the smartphone, which was actually during the great financial crisis. And I was a C-level executive at the time, and I remember being in those boardrooms and having to make the decisions. Do we go full on? We transitioned our business from quote unquote dumb phones to smartphones. And then do we go all in? Do we invest? Do we put the big CapEx out? You have people walking out of banks with, the box of all their goods in their hand, people being laid off, and all these banks are closed. It was a very strange time. Do you put all this CapEx out there? Do you invest? Do you ramp? Do you go? And we made the right decision. At that time. Apple made the right decision at that time, and that's where that scaling of that occurred. But it was actually during the great financial crisis. A lot of people don't remember that's when the actual start of the smartphone occurred. But it was a very difficult time when you're inside of it real time and having to make that decision. You weren't sure. because these phones were going to be more expensive for people to buy, and you weren't necessarily sure that during this time that we were going to get this kind of uptake. But we made the right
drill down on that real quick?
Yeah.
So this was a $500 piece of technology that they didn't even know if people would want when everybody was broke. That was the iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I feel like that's such an incredible visual to really capture the time.
Yeah, this is an industry that, that year in 2008, where we did a couple million units each of, Android and iPhone. And now it's an industry where we do 1.2 billion to 1.3 billion units a year. Just to give you an idea of how that's grown just over a decade. And that was at that point in time, but there was kind of a couple of aha moments of like, this is really special. Like when you have the internet in your hand that you didn't have before, it's very special. When you're able to Google, from your hand and be able to get this, it's a very special, experience. And we had a similar one too when we built. If you remember the Razr phone, this is before iPhone, the most popular looking phone, the one that everyone had. We did 165 million units of this thing. It was the highest. It was a huge success. And I remember the first ones that we hand built in a little lab in Illinois. And this thing, and we looked at this thing, we're like, this is like nothing that's out there. And we didn't know. At the time, we did not know what we had on our hands. We gave it a 400,000 unit lifetime volume. When you start out a program, you have to buy CapEx. You've got to get suppliers set up. Like this thing will probably be a couple 100,000 units, and we ended up selling out. We put like 100,000 or more out in the first quarter, and they were just all gone. And this is the most expensive phone out there by a mile. This is $500 flip phone. It was expensive, gone.
This is $2,005.
So okay, next quarter we got to double. Then we had to double the next quarter, and then we doubled again, and then it was off to the races. But at the start of that program, we knew we had something special. The thinnest clam, all metal, aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum, magnesium, very special looking product, nothing else like it. But we weren't sure, and that's why it had the very low lifetime volume, and then it was just off to the races. And again, I think here with Autonomy, if you bring it all back, you're going to have a very special situation with the value that you're going to have in these vehicles. And just, we're sitting here today, we see it, but we're seeing it at a very small scale. But when the rest of the world is able to see this and view it, and if it can be brought down to prices that are more affordable, the scale of this thing could be just mind-boggling.
It's just I still am completely and utterly mind blown by the fact that the company front loaded the hardware. So they came out with millions of units. They put a sunk cost of $2,500 per car, whatever that computer, camera, harness, whatever suite that they put together. They put that in the car, regardless if the person bought the software or not, with the intention of turning on a fully autonomous, unsupervised system years down the road. And so what's the end result of that? Is that you're going to have a magical product that just appears out of thin air in millions of cars in the world. And if you think about, here's it blows my mind that this is actually true. Uber in the United States has about 1 million drivers, I think, 1.2 million drivers or something. Tesla has almost double as many unsupervised self-driving capable cars in the United States as Uber, which are going to be 5 times, maybe not 5 times, because if they're driving full time, let's say they're going to be 2 times more useful than an Uber driver, because you don't have to stop for potty breaks. You don't need a human in the car, right? So you're essentially with the switch of a software thing, you just upload. You have 4x the amount of Uber drivers you would have with a software update, with a per mile cost that's far below 50% of what an Uber costs today, far below. And they're just doing.
Well, at scale, it's going to be a fraction.
Yeah, 1/10. Yeah, whatever it is. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you've ever seen that diagram or puzzle where it's somebody's pouring a liquid and then there's these couple of different paths, or like which path is going to get filled up first,
Yeah.
This is why Uber is a bit freaking out. This is why you see Dara, who I think is a very good CEO, out there saying, hey, like if there's a deal to be made, we want to make a deal. And here's why. When that's utilization, that water, that liquid pouring out, and it's going to fill up the Tesla piece of it is going to fill up first. And the reason the Tesla piece of it, when it's at scale, is going to fill up first is because of the cost structure that it's going to be running at. And that means if they're able to maintain their utilization queues and their utilization and keep the queues low, keep utilization very high, they're going to keep their cost structure appreciably lower, and they're actually going to push down the utilization on the Uber network. This is why it was so attractive to say, wow, we just want the Uber address book. We get the Uber address book, but they don't actually need it at scale. And that's the thing. Their queue's going to fill up. And the fixed cost and the variable piece of it, the unit economics are going to keep the Tesla solution at such a low cost. It's going to push the other solution. It's going to put tremendous pressure. And remember, they've pieced out their solution. Now, BYD, we're going to do a deal with Cruise, who went under. We're going to do a deal with Waymo. We're going to do a deal with this. All those different companies, they all want their cut. They all want their margin. And then they all did separate deals for cleaning of the vehicles, right? So that company's going to want their margin, okay? And then, oh, by the way, what's inside of these vehicles? Who made the silicon? Okay, they're going to want their margin, okay? Who designed it? Who did the software platform? They're going to want their margin. Who's the OEM? They're going to want their margin. You go back to the Tesla solution, they literally own the entire thing end to end, and now you're going to stitch Grok into that, and you're going to stitch in X and XAI to that. They get the unit economics right, and these are multi-year decisions that are made.
So Jeff, the only path that it looks like is available to Uber at this point, to me, is that they have to approach Tesla and they have to say, hey, Tesla, can we pre-buy your first 2 million Cybercabs, and I'll give you all the money to produce them up front. Do you think that a conversation like that has already been had or is likely to be had?
I mean, yeah, there are multiple deal types that could be on the table. You go in round one, it doesn't work. You keep going back, you keep coming back. At some point, there may be a reason, or there may be a deal that's so good that Tesla should take it. But I would say, by the way, I'm not in the camp of in June we light up the network and Uber dies in July. I'm not in that camp. I don't think anybody here is in that camp either. But this is going to, when the Tesla network is at scale, it's going to put tremendous pressure on Uber, and it's going to the cost is going to be the magnet. And then that magnet is going to pull in very high utilization, and that's going to keep the pressure. The pressure on cost for Tesla is actually going to be in the inverse direction. It's going to be down, okay? Because they've designed something that's fundamentally different than what the others that are non-vertically integrated have to do. The economics can't work. There's too many players, and there's even inside of each player, there's too many suppliers. There's too many vendors in the mix. So it can work today because the costs are high today. But as soon as somebody comes in with a disruptive this gets blown up. Now they have time. There's things that they can do. And I'm not saying that Tesla's going to have 100% market share, because they're not. People want choices. So, but it's setting up a very small percentage of the Tesla robotaxi conversation is on the unit economics and the business model. Everybody just gets attracted. This goes back to the Kramer comment. Have you ever been in a Waymo? Okay. Have you ever been in a Cruise? Very, very small percentage of the conversations on the business model. Everybody just looks at the steering wheel moving by itself and the fact that there's a vehicle out. Those are prototype operations that have been pushed out into a production environment and not at scale. There's a reason they're not at scale. There's a reason there's not 1 million of them out there right now. They've been at it for more than a decade. There's a reason for that.
Honestly, it reminds me of, I'm not saying that anyone actually said this back in the day, but saying that it's no big deal for Tesla to achieve full self-driving because Waymo has already done it seems the same as making the argument that, oh, now that spreadsheets have come to PCs, it's not going to be any big deal because mainframes could run spreadsheets. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, but how many mainframes are there and how many PCs are there? And how many people can afford a PC who couldn't afford a mainframe?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I think that the piece that also gets lost in this, people follow, that are loosely following the story, is you have the leader of the company who has 250 million followers on X or whatever he's got. He only has to write one post to get the ball rolling. Hey, we just launched Austin. Go to the airport for 25% less than Uber. Private, comfortable, tailored to you. No crazy smells, whatever you want to come up with, right? Whatever justification, like, try it today. And then that right there gets the ball rolling. Because even at a 25% less like if they charge 25% less than Uber to go to the airport, they're still going to make way more money on that ride at scale than Uber would. I mean, so much more money than Uber would ever touch. So right there, to your point, the magnet for the cost already exists, and then you have a gigantic marketing arm in Elon Musk to just create awareness around it. And once you hit that critical mass, right, then you're like, what are all these crazy looking cyber cabs running around? What is this? Like, and they could just put like a QR code on the thing or something, like, or some sort of decal on the thing. Download the Tesla app. Download Tesla app for 25% less than Uber, whatever. There's so many different ways it can create awareness, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and very few people are actually aware of what Tesla's doing. And this is why Elon goes back to we have the plan, we have the strategy, we have the engineering, we have all this stuff. It's all going to come down to needing a tremendous amount of execution. So the execution isn't a given. There's risk in all of this. But that's why Elon keeps bringing every statement back to long term. As long as we execute, there's a tremendous path here, because he knows the business model. He knows the business model. He knows what they're making. He knows what others are making. We can do a whole other show, by the way. I have a similar take on humanoids and why, and I'm writing an article on this right now. There's something that's very, very seldomly discussed about Tesla and the data that they would have to inform and properly train a humanoid in a manufacturing environment that others just simply don't have. And that could be a whole other conversation.
We
but
should have that.
Elon is saying this because he understands the business model. He understands what they're building. He has a good awareness of what others are building. It's not a zero-sum game. They can put product out. You will see many humanoids. You will see many robo-taxis. The question is going to come down to margin share and market share.
Yeah, we should definitely 1,000% have that discussion. I mean, the probably merger with it. I mean, we'll figure it out, the tariffs discussion. I mean, you're always welcome back, Jeff. You know that. We'll have you back literally any day of the week. Can I pick your brain on, before we wrap it up, can I pick your brain on this XAI thing? Like what?
Yeah.
To me, it feels like a brilliant move. And the more I think about it, the more I want Tesla to take an ownership stake in XAI. Because if I think about, and so many people have talked about this in the Tesla community, and there's so many brilliant people. So this is not, an original thought, but the merge of Tesla's real world physical AI capability and XAI's digital AI capability, and you think about the car and the humanoid robot, those two things are the perfect use case for those two things to come together. A car that knows how to navigate the real world and knows you deeply, and a humanoid robot that knows how to manipulate the real world and do anything you can do and knows you deeply, right? Like that's the brains colliding, turning into one brain. So, and if Tesla has an ownership stake in XAI and they're able to share resources or have access to their compute or have access to their data, whatever it is, feels like a complete and total no-brainer. No pun intended. So how are you thinking about that?
I'm thinking of it in a very similar way. I first started approaching it from a utilization and supply chain perspective of X has data centers, XAI has a data center, and Tesla has an AI data center. And what's interesting is that Elon is at the helm of all of those companies. So what's great is when he has that conversation with Jensen and NVIDIA, he can really speak on behalf, and he's basically buying more GPUs than anybody. He can put himself at the front of the... Yeah, he can put himself at the front of the line. And quite frankly, when he gets those GPUs, what does he do? He converts them into running product more quickly than others. It's called time to value. It's very important for suppliers that you have a partner that actually not only takes your product out of inventory, but converts it into something that's actually driving real revenue very quickly. So now you have X and XAI coming together. So you have this real-time information, this real-time hive mind, and you have XAI and its compute capability to be able to take that data, to be able to manipulate that data and make it useful. Those two things coming together, their compute, their data center, their back end. Now you're going to have a cost structure thing where you're going to be able to take the cost structure down further, cost structure down for X, cost structure down for XAI. And now you have this one product coming together. And by the way, XAI can still go out and do capital raises because they got to go from a 200,000 GPU cluster to 500K to eventually to 1 million. And so they're going to continue to have to do that. Tesla and this tie-up have always made sense to me. What powers these data centers? Tesla Megapacks. Who designed those solutions? Tesla energy engineers designed those solutions. What was the core in recruiting at some of these companies? Some of it were Tesla engineers at the time.
And SpaceX. Yeah,
SpaceX.
like the 21 Guns guys are the like core team that is going in.
Yeah. So you've had this foundation. And finally, this has been documented. I'm not sure if it's 100% true or not, that Tesla tried to make an acquisition of OpenAI back in 2018. And remember, Elon was the founder of OpenAI at that time, and he thought that there could be a tie-up, could be, obviously a future of tying up this AI company together with Tesla and having the assets and resources working together. People can go research that; it's out there. You can go grok it if you'd like. So there is logic for this all coming together and being under the Tesla umbrella, and then allowing Elon to have that greater ownership and all of it. And what's beautiful about this is the original thing that spurred some of these separate companies of, okay, if I don't have this ownership in Tesla, I don't want the risk of building these things inside of a company where I can be overturned. So he's built these things on the outside, but now if it all comes back into Tesla, it can all plug back in together, plug back into our products. And then Tesla's not, having to pay a margin for some of this stuff, and the unit economics work better. I think the unit economics could work in either respect, but it's not as clean. So there's a lot of between the way that these data centers are powered and all the common intricacies. There's a lot of value in Tesla acquiring this in the future.
That's crazy. Elon's path to the world's first trillionaire seems completely and utterly unstoppable. It's just going to happen. There's too much value in his companies for that to not be the reality. And I think that's going to open up. Like, boy, if you thought that Elon hate is bad now, just wait until he becomes a trillionaire. That's really going to get, it's going to be taken to the next level. So crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable. Think about the betting too. Betting against. Remember, X was originally a $12 billion valuation after he acquired it for 44. He was being laughed at. At the meantime, he was restructuring the company, getting the advertisers back after pushing them away, and then XAI as well, starting this up from basically zero, self-funding it, and then going out building the team. And in 2 years, they've got the best, arguably the best model that's out there. So it's. You come back to these people that are trying to bet against him. He doesn't have a history of losing when he's bet against and he's challenged like this. He does not have a history of coming out on the wrong side of it.
Yeah. And now he has like more arrows in his quiver than ever to do all kinds of crazy creative deal making, not only because of his track record and his ability to just snap his fingers and raise tens of billions of dollars for whatever next thing he wants to do, but yeah, like he has all of these different companies, whether it's X, whether it's XAI, whether it's Neuralink, whether it's Tesla and SpaceX, and just like on and on and on, and he yeah, because of all of those resources that are at his fingertips and at his disposal, he can just do unorthodox, crazy things that no one else has access to.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. You just fast forward a year from now, you could have potentially hundreds of thousands or millions of vehicles that drive themselves. You're going to be months away from potentially a SpaceX Mars mission. You're going to, have Grok 4 or 5, and what levels of capability is that going to have? You're going to have it integrated inside of Tesla vehicles. You're going to have humanoid robots at scale inside of Tesla factories. You're going to be able to sit up, perched 50 feet above the factory and look down and see thousands of robots assembling product. And then you're going to have at Neuralink, you're going to have more and more patients on the existing solution, and some patients that were blind that are now able to see. And this is just fast forwarding a year from now. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about it. I'm sure we've left a bunch of things off.
But still no
off
tunnels.
Of that list too.
Those tunnels are slow. Okay, I'm gonna get kicked out of this meeting room here in a couple minutes. So I think it's probably Hans. Did you want to throw something in before that happens?
I was just thinking along the lines that Jeff was talking about specifically on the humanoid robots, that it does seem like that space is getting really competitive really quickly. Especially because of how openly Tesla shared about their plans and their progress and their designs and everything. So they kind of seeded the field of competition for that product. But I think when you step back and you just look at it geopolitically, most, yes, Figure, Apptronic, these other companies are going to try to make these things. But to Jeff's point, I think they're going to really struggle to maintain market share and margin share against a competitor like Tesla. The real competition looks like it would be coming from Chinese competitors. And I do think that the Chinese government will ensure that they're really going to try and mount a very, very formidable competition in that sector. But with the geopolitical tension between the United States and China, I think that, for the U.S. and hopefully whatever U.S. allies we have left, there's going to be a lot of resistance to adopting whatever that Chinese option is, and that will help to protect, good segments of market share for Tesla. And I just expect Tesla to deliver the Apple solution for this. That's just going to, yes, you could get something that's cheaper, but it's not going to work as well. The ecosystem's not going to be as good. There's just going to be a bunch of things where, yeah, maybe you could get cheaper, but you're going to get what you pay for. It's not going to be as good. And then that makes it really hard for those other companies because, to Jeff's point, they'll also be an amalgamation of a whole bunch of vendors, a whole bunch of suppliers that all want their margin. And so both achieving the profitability for those players and the feature set when you're trying to coordinate across so many different people is just going to be difficult.
Yeah. And we could do another conversation. There's 2 breadcrumbs out there to just pick up on, and Tesla's already laid them. They're already out there. One is the adaptation time of the model to work in the physical real world. That adaptation time being so short in the vehicle, that advantage is going to carry over to Tesla in the humanoid world. The second thing is, and that's everything in ramping product. This is what you saw the whole data center thing with Tesla and being able to, do it in, the 19 days, 122 days. Everything is that time to value piece of it. And this adaptation window being so short for what Tesla's able to do with their physical real world AI, nobody has that. Nobody has that today. And that's going to be a very difficult thing for others to build. The second thing is Tesla's going to have some unique information in terms of building these stations, building these factories out, and that whole time to train that workforce. I just say that's everything in ramping products is that time to bring up a new line. And I think Tesla's going to be able to meaningfully cut into that, what they're doing. But again, it's probably a discussion for another time. But it will be a crowded field, but there's going to be some distinct advantages that Tesla is going to have.
I love it. We'll definitely have to have you back for that discussion as early as we can manage. So that would be wonderful. We'll do that. We'll do the post-tariff disaster potential that we'll get in a couple of days here. Hopefully no disaster. And just so much more to talk about. So as always, Jeff, it's just always such a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for making the time. Where can people find you?
I'm an X. You can see down there right by the name and just hanging out. And it's great to speak with both of you, Hans. And as far as that, always a good conversation, really relevant topics out there right now. It's, again, a lot of signal, also a lot of noise. And if you can comb through it effectively, it can put your mind at ease.
For sure. At the Jeff Lutz on X. Make sure you go follow him. And we'll see you back probably in a few days at this rate. Thank you.
See you guys.
Appreciate you. All right, hold tight here for a second, Jeff.